Actually, there we go. Okay. So my name is Andrew Ecker. My mother, Kathy Lindsay. My father, Dale Ecker. My mother's uh, mother, Elva Gallegos, Apache woman from New Mexico. My father's mother, Evelyn Beatty, an Irish woman from Pennsylvania. My mother's father, Leroy Lindsay, Apache man from Arkansas. My father's father, Wayne Ecker, German and Algonquin. I have a daughter, Bailey, a son, Peyton, a beautiful, beloved fiance, Monica. Very grateful to be here with all of you. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself here in the traditional language as well. So, Dogate, Andrew Ecker, Yinishe, Don E Nishinigi E De Nishe, Irish Bashachin, E De Dashache, German Dashanali, Akote Go E Tashli A, Portland, Oregon, Inasha, Shema A, Kathy Lindsay Woye, Shaza A, Del Ecker. So tonight I'm going to be sharing on a topic that I'm very passionate about, which is the Sacred Seven. The Sacred Seven is a technology, an ancient tribal technology that enhances self-identity and helps us live a more robust spiritual, ceremonial, and relational life. So the topic is really about self-identity and about how we can utilize this ancient technology in our contemporary life to help ourselves live better. So tonight you're going to be learning about the 7 containers of self-identity. The first is the inner child. This is the child within. The divine feminine, the divine masculine. The East, which is represented in the matriarchal grandmother, the grandmother of the East, which is the new self, new relationships. Grandmother South, who is represented in the patriarchal grandmother. This is who we are to our family identity. And then the matriarchal grandfather, who is Grandfather West, and this is who we are to our community, and this is represented in the matriarchal grandfather. And then the Grandfather North, who is the patriarchal grandfather, and this is who we are to the elementals. That's the air, the water, the fire, the earth, gravity, time, and spirit. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into this and share with you a little bit about how the Sacred Seven is really a foundational experience for relational spirituality, and how we develop relationships is what I feel this experience is really all about. It's about how we relate to one another, how we relate to the planet, how we relate to the elements. It's all about relationship. And the Sacred Seven is a technology that can enhance your relational identity with yourself, and in turn, that reflection enhances your relationships with others. So here's a little bit about me. Again, here I'm an author of the book, The Sacred Seven. The Sacred Seven is the book that I'm going to be sharing some of the information. Well, it's the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today. I'm also a business owner. I have 2 successful wellness-based businesses. I've been in community development, personal empowerment, life and business coach. I help people turn information into transformation, which is very important. And my 2 companies are Drumming Sounds and Wellness Sourcing, and of course the Sacred Seven. So Drumming Sounds is primarily our main company. Wellness Sourcing is a vehicle that came out of Drumming Sounds to help us interact with low-income HUD housing communities and underserved populations. So this is my beloved fiance and me, and some of the companies that we've worked with. Been a keynote for the Arizona Assisted Living Federation Association, the International Breathwork Foundation, the Aztec Awards, large organization that celebrates major events in the state of Arizona, Arizona Senior Center Association, the Arizona Activity Coordinators Association, Drum Circle Facilitators Guild, Arizona Therapeutic Recreation Association, the National Federation of Families for Children's Mental Health. I was recently the keynote for that organization. National Credit Union Foundation, and also the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Association. Some of the companies we've worked with, these are United Healthcare, Maricopa County Public Health. Being a program of Maricopa County Public Health has given us an opportunity to really reach a lot of underserved populations with music, sound, and the power of the drum. That's primarily what we do, is we utilize music to transform individuals and communities. I've also worked with 6 different tribal nations doing primarily wellness programs and suicide prevention. including the Havasupai Nation, the Hopi, the Dene, the Pasquayaki, the Gila River Indian community, the Tohono O'odham. Yeah, a lot of different organizations we worked with. Native American Connections, Native Americans for Community Action. Also been at a lot of music festivals, major music festivals, including Beloved, Lucidity, Love Long Beach, Joshua Tree Music Festival, Lightning in a Bottle, Enchanted Forest. Gosh, just a ton of organizations and companies we've worked with over the many years that we've been facilitating wellness programs. And all of these accomplishments are really founded in the technology of the Sacred Seven that I'm sharing with you tonight. This technology is really about enhancing the human experience and allowing for yourself to live in that optimal state of human design in which you can really begin to influence people around you and to have that really powerful form of influence that allows for people's lives to be changed. So here's a little bit on the work that we do here. I'm gonna go ahead and play this for you. And this is a video that was done on us. And one of the main things about this video is that it is over 4 minutes long, which is huge because in media and in news and all of these things, when you do a program like that, you're usually getting 30 seconds. So they gave us over 4 minutes, and I think you're going to enjoy watching this video.
We all have a connection to cancer. We all know survivors, and we all know people whose lives were stolen by the disease. This next story is about stealing those moments back through a form of therapy that has nothing to do with chemo or radiation. This is about finding inner peace by releasing your outer rhythm. Under a burnt orange sky in the West Valley at sunset, a fire swirls in the wind with the added rhythm of percussion and peace.
Everybody take a deep breath. Pull it out with a big sigh.
If fire is symbolic of a burning will to live, then maybe music can unleash that will to live in the moment.
Again, deep breath.
Some of these folks don't know how many moments they have left.
I'm going through a lot right now.
In October, stomach pains for Donna West sent her to the doctor.
And then they found out that I had pancreatic cancer.
Say it with me.
Eva McComb's grandchildren don't know the whole story yet of why Grandma drives alone from LA to Goodyear every few weeks.
And I came down with peritoneal cancer, which is not that common.
Eva and Donna are doing everything they can with traditional medicine to fight their cancers. They're also experiencing something else, music therapy in Andrew Ecker's drum circle.
Let's do it together as a group. You're not alone.
Andrew is a professional drum circle facilitator with nearly 20 years experience. It's his passion and career. He leads hundreds of drum circles for all kinds of people, wounded veterans, Alzheimer's patients, even prison gangs.
3, sometimes 5 a day.
He comes here to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America on a regular basis.
We create a positive experience, an experience that's based around a very simple principle of love and healing.
Music therapy and the field known as health rhythms are part of an integrative approach to treatment.
One of the very unique aspects of our model of care is treating the whole person and not just the cancer.
In the circle, Andrew is 50% music teacher, 50% motivational speaker.
I said, are you ready?
Yeah!
Are you ready?
Yeah! And 100% connected to the group.
One more time, rumble! And stop! All right, this time we're gonna do a rumble. Then we're gonna put our hands in the air and we're gonna say the words, "We are here!"
It was the first time that I've ever really been in a drum circle, but it was very spiritual.
Oh. It was something that I've always wanted to play with drums, and I've never been able to do it.
It's a lot of good karma in this place.
You know, we're gonna play our drums with love and healing in our hearts. And then that was the catalyst for dancing and for laughter and for people leaving the experience that they're having with cancer for a moment.
I asked Eva, could she leave behind her stage 4 cancer on this night?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The healing power of music isn't fully known, but doctors do know communal activities, engaging with people, and relaxing can boost immune systems. And isn't that what we truly need? Any boost in life? Because there are no guarantees. There's only that fire, that spirit, to celebrate the moments we do have.
We are here!
I have to tell you, we were out there that night for the whole drum circle from start to the finish and then some after they all finished up. It was really powerful, and that outdoor setting doesn't look like it's on the campus of a cancer center, right? Eva told me that performing like that with those drums and in front of a supportive group was something on her bucket list. We certainly want to wish all those folks out there the very best.
So a little bit on the work that we do in cancer facilities. This work is really founded in the Sacred Seven. It's founded in the power of self-identity. And this topic that I'm sharing with you tonight, it really enhances that experience and all the great work that we've been able to do over the many years of service and community. This is another video. I'm going to go ahead and skip this video tonight. We had a little bit of a late start. This video is on the keynote presentation that we did for the mental health, Children and Family Services Mental Health Organization. That was recently here in Phoenix. So go ahead and skip that one, and we'll go right into the practice of transformation. So I have yet to really master this level of interaction. I'm practicing online. I've been sharing this technology with people all over the country at many different venues. This is actually a share that I did in Joshua Tree, California, on the topic of the Sacred Seven. One of the things that I find in so many technologies that are out there about enhancing our experience is that it's all information based and very little of it is experiential. The Sacred Seven is really about an experience. It's about an experience within yourself and how that unfolds in the reflection of the outward reality. So life before the Sacred Seven. I grew up in a home where both of my parents were addicted to drugs. I was born into a trauma, an inheritance of trauma, living in that lifestyle, being bounced around from family member to family member, growing up in and out of drug houses as a kid. My earliest memories of me and my mom were her shoplifting. And she used to put me in the grocery cart and I would look over her shoulder to make sure that no one was watching her. My parents were both involved in organized crime and in professionally shoplifting. So they both had crews of people that they would work with in order to supply for their drug habits. My mom died of a cocaine overdose. My father died of cirrhosis of the liver caused by hepatitis C. My dad, by the time I was a teenager, thought being a good dad was turning me onto a clean heroin connection. So I was actually using heroin with my father. I grew up always knowing that I was Indian, but I didn't know really what that meant. You know, my grandfather told me that I was Indian, basically told me I was Apache from behind a bottle of whiskey. A lot of dysfunction on my mom's side. Yeah, it was a very challenging time, even my father's side, you know. Family members used to use drugs with my aunts, my cousins. You know, it was a whole culture of addiction in our family, and that was really what I had to break out of. And the technology of the Sacred Seven gave me that ability to live substance abuse free now for 20 years and to really have an impact in the community and make a difference in the lives of others in the process of service. That's why I'm so passionate about sharing this technology with others and getting this information out there. And every person that's on this is going to get a free copy of my book. Yeah, if you stay to the end, I'll give you a free copy of the book. Transformative information and practical, experiential ways that you can begin to implement the Sacred Seven into your life. So the power of introduction and perception. This is very important as a foundation of the technology of the Sacred Seven. I encountered the Sacred Seven when I was invited to go to a healers conference in northern Arizona. on the Navajo Nation. And I went to go do a drum circle up there for this healers conference, just like the work that we do in the hospitals here. And as I was invited to this, I got a personal invitation back to a ceremonial hogan. This is a traditional house, a Navajo Dene house. And a man named Fillmore invited me to this. And I was there early. I wanted to get to know him a little bit. And as the people started to arrive, there were several elders from the community that came and actually sat down in the circle with us. And when they would sit down, they would do their introduction. And literally, I could feel the energy shift in the room as these elders began to introduce themselves. And that caused me to go on to a meditative and prayer-filled journey in which I began to really look into the Sacred Seven, to practice the Sacred Seven in Sweat Lodge, to practice the Sacred Seven in ceremony, in my personal life, and in creating that really powerful foundation for spirituality. The perception that the Sacred Seven gives us is it's in alignment with the 7 directions: above, below, inside, the east, the south, the west, and the north. And that loosening of the hyper focus of captivity in the human experience is really what the Sacred Seven is about. It also is giving us the optimal understanding of self. So looking at ourselves from all 7 directions rather than just one hyper point of view. This gives us power and sovereignty. So we begin with the child within, and the child within is represented in the inside place. This is the direction of the inside. And the inside is a place in which we begin to recognize that inner child. The inner child within us is a place of deep reflection. The reflection of the child within holds the relationship to faith, to the mystic, to the way of understanding life through faith. You know, it's by the faith of the child that it comes into this experience. The child really holds that place because it's faith that allows the child to trust in the parents and trust that it will be provided for. Today in our contemporary culture, especially in the environment that we're faced with right now, the struggle of understanding how that we will be provided for rests in the inside place. It rests in the child. And as we begin to step into that relational value of the child, we begin to loosen ourselves from the captivity of fear. The child is so inquisitive and so curious that oftentimes the child will allow itself to live an abundant life without even knowing or understanding that there's fear around it. It's this kind of place that the child brings that revelation into our lives and allows for us to begin to live that freedom that all of us deserve to experience. The mystic energy of transformation through play, the intuition, the knowing. These are the places inside of the inner child that really bring out the place of the optimizing of this experience. When we talk about the inner child, we really come to grips with the understanding of okay, I came into this lifetime knowing that I would be provided for. There is a knowing inside of that relationship to the energies that are around. The child looks at the world in that way, with wonder, with curiosity, with the idea of playfulness. This is what the child gives us. And this place inside of ourselves is extremely beneficial for our lives. So the imbalance in the child and the balance in the child can really lead us to activities such as addiction. We can become like the annoying clown, you know, the person that's always clowning around, that doesn't really have the maturity of responsibility to balance the inner child. And this is why we begin to understand the totality of the human experience from the Sacred Seven. And as we begin to understand it from the Sacred Seven, we can see that it's a quality in relationships that brings balance. The imbalance of the child can be a person who never gets anything done. You know, they're constantly in that place of procrastination. This part of us inside that is the child, yes, it needs to be nurtured. It needs to be protected. but we find balance in the relationship to the next two of the sacred seven, we're going to get into the three spiritual directions: the inside, the below, and the above. These are the three spiritual directions that are associated with the sacred seven and the Trinity within the next container, which is the representation of the divine feminine. The divine feminine, the inside represented in the mother, the space below. This is the below space, the place of darkness. It is through the darkness that light comes. The sacred womb, the divine feminine, is that place that gives us the understanding of birthing our reality. It's through the divine feminine aspect of ourselves that we begin to learn how to nurture the child. And in this aspect, we begin to loosen ourselves from the imbalance of the inner child. The divine feminine creates the nurturer, that part of ourselves that promotes confidence in wellness, emotions, and in the physical and also in the spiritual. So as the divine feminine works, it's like as if the child came to the mother with the boo-boo. I know as a father that I have kissed my child's boo-boos before, and in kissing my child's boo-boos, there's an amazing, powerful healing. This is the faith of the child in the kissing of the boo-boo by the mother. The feminine aspect of myself, the nurturing aspect of myself, is in relationship to the child. And as I begin to grow within my own life, I begin to understand how the divine feminine aspect within me, the below space, gives me the perspective to live in the optimization of reality. What happens in our lives when we come into this force of creativity, the power of the below place, the power of the darkness, it gives us this opportunity to really embrace that, which can be an immersion into separation, but yet inside of the embrace of nurturing qualities, we can allow for ourselves to relax into that and understand that even in that separation, that the truth of integration has manifested. You see, the nurturer gives us that ability to come back to that place of realizing that the child has the nurturing value, that the child is already being nurtured within ourselves. So the imbalance in the divine feminine leads to a person who is chronically sick, who is constantly looking for an outside expression of the nurturing value that can be optimized within themselves if they're willing to do the work that's necessary. But instead, they're constantly looking for that edification and that person to nurture the inner child outside of their own relationship to the inner child. You see, when you have a balanced identity inside of the divine feminine, you are able to kiss your own boo-boos. Many of us, we went to our mom and we said, "Mommy, kiss my boo-boo," and mommy didn't have time for us. And we create a resentment towards the nurturing side, which in turn can also create an idea of, oh, just get over it, right? That getting over the emotional understanding of our reality leads to immaturity in the emotional body. The balance of the divine feminine really attracts that energy of perfection in relationship to the inner child when it is balanced by the next container of self-identity. The next container of self-identity is really important to bringing a quality within the Trinity. So just to give us a little bit of an overview, the inside place is represented the divine child. The below place is represented in the divine feminine. Now, these two aspects of self are inside of the optimized human being. And there's a way of understanding this from the perspective of the sacred seven that I feel will enhance your life and will give you a deeper, meaningful purpose into your relationships. Imbalance in the child can lead to the attraction of those that are out of alignment with responsibility. Imbalance in the feminine can lead to those that are constantly creating that need for nurturing. You can even find that in relationships. When you have the imbalance of the feminine, you bring into your life adult children. These adult children are just looking for you to feed their own hypochondriac that's inside of them, right? You're constantly giving to these individuals and draining yourself because that value within you has not been put in a place of equality. This is all about self and how self reflects reality. And as we step into the next container of self-identity, we begin to understand the system of the Trinity. And this is the child, the feminine, and the masculine. And this is something that I feel is very important for us living in our contemporary culture, because the idea of gender, at least in the American culture, is very concrete. And in indigenous cultures, there is always the understanding of the duality within the individual, that the feminine and the masculine is there for us both. And as we begin to navigate that, we can realize that why is the feminine and the masculine there? So that we can nurture and protect the inside place where the child rests. You see, as we step into the divine masculine, we're now stepping into the fortified representation of the protector. This is the linear, the logical mind. The divine masculine represents that logical, linear understanding of reality. The emotional balance comes from the feminine. The logical, protective side of us comes from the masculine. And now we begin to resonate in a frequency that allows for equality in the Trinity: the child, the divine feminine, the divine mother, the divine father, the divine masculine, all represented inside of self. And this begins to create equality. Now, these are the three spiritual directions that we're talking about in the first part of this presentation that are very important to the totality of the depth of emotional clarity, of physical understanding, of being able to have relationships that are meaningful, and most importantly, to have the magnetism to attract those like-minded individuals that are going to reflect balance inside of their own trinity of reflection. So this power of the divine masculine gives us the ability to relate to problem solving. It gives us the ability to understand that no matter what situation arises, we have confidence in the understanding of, okay, I'm going to make it through this. I'm going to figure out a way to bring solutions to myself, my family, and the community. Right now, there are people paralyzed in our contemporary culture because of the lack of the masculine. The masculine is looking at this situation that's going on within the pandemic and is realizing that there is a navigating system that can help each and every one of us if we will just do the necessary tools to help ourselves overcome these things. It is this logical mind that becomes enhanced in a situation where others would resolve to quit or to stop or to just give up. The logical linear mind says, okay, there is an ending to this and the beginning of something else. This is what the divine masculine gives to us. And as we begin to step into that realization of the balances and the imbalance in the divine masculine, we can see that the overprotective nature also can create an imbalance and create a vehicle that stops us from living a quality of life that will really benefit us. If you were in a place of complete fear of being a germaphobe, of being locked into an isolation chamber, right now you would probably be completely paralyzed in fear. But the divine masculine side of yourself is still logically looking at the presentation of fear in your life and is giving you the opportunity to understand it in a deep way. You see, this is what the divine masculine allows for us in its balanced state. In its over-exaggerated fear, it just leads to defensiveness. It leads to overprotection and aggression. You see, if a person is coming at us with a criticism and we're overly connected to our divine masculine, if that representation is within us and the strength of that divine masculine is there, we're not going to be able to nurture ourselves through that critique that could help us actually live as a better person. But instead, defensiveness, aggression, and overprotection rob us of the intimacy of knowing learning. And this is something that really When I share this with you, I'm reminded of myself in so many aspects of my life before I came in contact with this technology. The idea of learning was almost an impossibility because I was so defensive that I just could not allow for another person to teach me. These are the dysfunctions of imbalance within these 7 sacred containers of self-identity. So to recap, the 3 spiritual directions. They give us a power of perception to self, the child, the feminine, the masculine. These represent the Trinity. And I show the iceberg here because there is so much to that, right? You see the top, you see the below place, and there's also the inside place in the iceberg. Infinite perception inside of all 3 of those. We don't know how far the above place goes. We don't know how far the below place goes. We don't know how far the inside place goes, how small it can get. You know, these are the things of the 3 spiritual directions that allow for us to understand the totality of the sacred geometry of the triangle. A triangle equal on all 3 sides is the very basis that built the pyramids of Egypt that have stood the test of time. That triangle idea is so strong that it strengthens us in the identity of self and empowers us to live the optimal state of human design. If you were just to get these 3 aspects of self and to do the work around really fortifying the metaphysical architecture of each one of these, and actually just even being aware of these 3 sides of yourself, these 3 perceptions of self, these 3 containers of self-identity. If you were to do the work around these 3, without the other 4, you can live a really enhanced, powerful life. But the other 4 that we're going to go into now are the physical directions. And the 4 physical directions are represented in the east, the south, the west, and the north. And these are represented in our grandparents. So as we call upon our introduction and we announce ourselves, we are actually doing a call to the directions, and we're creating a conscious connection to all 7 directions. The 4 physical containers of self-identity, or the 4 physical directions, hold the keys to abundant relationships. So we've created the foundation of the triangle, the Trinity within ourselves, and now we are beginning to utilize this balanced form of self-identity to reflect in other relationships. I want to share with you something about this technology that I learned from one of my Dene relatives that shared this with me. He said, this is the fundamental practice. He said, if you don't know how to introduce yourself in ceremony, you're called abandoned. Not abandoned like, oh, we shunned you or we put you out of the tribe. No, abandoned in the sense of, oh my God, nobody taught you who you are. This technology is at the foundation of so many spiritual disciplines. Even the Christ himself, when he entered into the synagogue, he pronounced his sacred 7. Why did he pronounce his sacred 7? Because it was from his lineage of his father that the prophecy of the Old Testament came through him. You see, these are important principles to every tribal community around the world. I've even talked to people that are from Italy that have shared with me the power of introduction and their sacred 7s and how they were taught in school, in elementary school, that they had to learn how to introduce themselves. So this is something that we've all known since the very dawn of cultural identity, yet it's missing in our contemporary culture, and we're bringing it back with this movement of the sacred 7. So we begin in the 4 physical directions with Grandmother East, and she is the mother's mother, and she guides us in new relationships. What's exciting about Grandmother East? Well, she's the one who really is the matriarchal essence of our identity. It is through the feminine womb that reality comes. It's through the womb that we are birthed. So it is her womb that really holds our clan. This holds our identity. This holds who we actually are. She's the strongest representation in our grandparents because it is her that is your mother. So we step into the East and Grandmother East, and she awakens us to the possibility of new relationships. Those new relationships are meaningful because all relationships are new in this incarnation at some point. She gives us the gateway to drawing new relationships. She is the origin of the womb, the sunrise. So imbalance and balance in the East. This is an important part of the process of really enhancing your relationship to self-identity. If you begin to understand that new relationships are great, but also, are you going to turn those new relationships into long-term meaningful relationships? Or are you simply addicted to love and to that first encounter? You see, these are things that we can find in the imbalance of the East. When we have the imbalance in the East and grandmother East, and we're constantly looking at new relationships, those new people, okay, I need to cycle through my friendships, right? These are things that grandmother East brings into perception. And as we look at ourselves from the East, we can begin to evaluate who we are to new. So important practice within creating the architecture of who we are to the new people, how we rest in grandmother East. This is about maintaining balance in our relationship. The next identity within the sacred seven, the next container of self-identity, the next direction that we're looking at ourselves from is the South. And this is the Father's mother. And she guides us in our family relationships. Our family relationships are the ones that we created an agreement with in the pre-existence, in the existence that is in the non-linear reality. This is the place of our spirit. Our spirit says to our mom, to our dad, to our grandparents, I'll sign up and I will be Andrew Wayne Thomas Ecker, and I will come down to earth and I will have a relationship with a mom who will die of a cocaine overdose. I'll have a relationship with a father that will die of cirrhosis of the liver from using heroin. All of these things in my life were a part of the agreement before I came into this incarnation. And believe me, when I practice introducing myself in ceremony, when I utilize the sacred seven, you can guarantee that I am in cycle with those relationships. I'm reminding myself of the powerful things that I've overcome in my life, and also what the brilliance is of those relationships and how they've enhanced my medicine. Grandmother South is the container of self-identity. It is the spiritual agreement that I just shared with you. We are incarnated here with an agreement, a karmic consequence, a contract. And that contract is fulfilled when we begin to loosen ourselves and step into empathy. Empathy is the vehicle that gives us that deeper understanding into our relationships. The imbalance and the balance in the family. You know, for myself, when I really realized my balanced self inside of family, I was able to speak my truth. Now, this is something that a lot of people in the dysfunction of the imbalance are unable to do. They're constantly looking for their family's approval. They're constantly looking for their family to tell them what to do. And instead of living their truth and being who they are bombarded with this information inside of themselves that creates a captivity. It's literally a spiritual captivity. In order to have sovereignty in our lives, we must understand that the transformation that we've brought into this incarnation, who we have incarnated to be, is a part of that agreement for our family. And being in agreement with our family helps them realize their optimal state. I remember the first time that I said the prayer over the meal at dinner time in my family household, and how powerful that was for me. You know, a person who my family had watched, you know, almost die of drug addiction, you know, come out of prison, all the different things. I went to prison for 3.5 years behind drug charges, you know, for selling LSD and mushrooms, for using those substances, like a stone in the sling. I was David, you know, the United States system was Goliath, and LSD and mushrooms were the stone in my sling. That's the way I looked at it. I was activating people through these chemicals. And it was that family culture that created that inside of me. You know, growing up in drug culture, growing up with the family dynamic, I had to free myself from the confines of that structure. And in doing that, I was able to birth who I am today for my family, which is the person that they call to smudge their house, to say the prayer at dinner time. You know, this is the comfort that I've experienced through the Sacred Seven that I want you to have in your relationship to your family. Grandfathers. Now we're into the grandfathers. And Grandfather West, this is the mother's father. And in the direction of the West, we are awoken, we are brought to the place of who we are to community. This is the representation that Grandfather West gives us, our mother's father. And in understanding that relationship to our mother's father and how community and how we show up for community, we can find service work in community, and we can be the place where we choose to serve. Maybe this is our church. Maybe this is our yoga studio. Maybe this is our drum circle. Maybe it's, a place where we volunteer. All of these aspects of self-identity enhance who we are in Grandfather West. And as we begin to formulate and really begin to practice the necessary experiential tools to enhance our relationship to community, we find even more deep meaning and purpose in that relationship. The imbalance to community in the sacred container of self-identity can manifest itself in an individual who is constantly looking at community and looking at how imperfect it is. Some of us never find a place where we can serve because we're too critical of those that are in authority. We're too critical in looking at them and creating a perception of perfection that we ourselves can't live up to. This is the confusion of the illusion that keeps us from finding our place of service. And as we step into that confusion of the illusion, we actually limit who we are in relationship to community. The balanced representation of ourselves is looking at community and saying, the only perfect community that I'm in is the community that I'm not in, right? That's the only perfect community that you'll ever find, is the community that you're not in. So understanding that you bring all of your imperfections to community gives you a place of sovereignty and balance in life. And you're able to be pliable like the water and to actually find people that you can serve inside of community. This is important because you're going to get that edification from that representation of self. Now, what are we having to do today? We're having to utilize technology in order to create community. And this is how it's going to be for the time being. But there'll be a breakthrough, and we will enter back into that physical understanding of how to relate to one another. And when that does, I want you to have a fortified representation of who you are to the community that you serve. So we go into Grandfather North, and this is our relationship to the elements. And how we relate to the elements is a very powerful understanding of self-identity, because oftentimes in our contemporary culture, we don't really truly understand how significant it is to be in relationship with the air, the water, the fire, the earth, gravity, time, and spirit. And these 7 elements that give us a reflection of self actually allow for us to enter into communication with the trees, with the water, with the animals, to really understand that the depth of reflection within us is a part of those outward representations of relationship. So Grandfather North guides us in understanding that. The 6 previous containers of self-identity are leading us into a way of understanding the elemental relationship, because it's through the practice of empathy that we begin to truly enhance who we are. And that empathetic response gives us a deeper relationship to the air, the water, the fire, the earth, gravity, time, and spirit. What if we could be in relationship with gravity and know gravity is a comfort? What if we could be in relationship with time and know that time is on our side? And what if we could be in relationship with spirit and really know that God is here for us? This is what the Sacred 7 gives to us when we begin to practice this technology in life. The air, the water, the fire, the earth. What if we were able to feel the wind and know that the wind is blowing for us, to listen to the story in our mind and how it reflects in the crackle of the fire, in the way that the mountains are, the way the trees are moving, in the way the water flows. This is what happens when we are in deep relationship with the elementals. And the Sacred 7, the practice of fortifying that architecture within our own lives, opens up those gates, opens up the doorway into creating those opportunities to optimize your self-understanding, your realization. So this picture, this child looking up to the heavens with his hands stretched, is really about the imbalance in the spiritual nature of individuals. Sometimes in life, there are people that will get so far imbalanced in spirituality that they won't be any earthly good. And this is true. You know, there's also the spiritual bypassing, where all of our emotions are supposed to be gratitude, joy, and happiness. You know, this doesn't give us an opportunity to really realize how every single one of our relationships to our emotions is an important teacher for our everyday life. The perspective of the North creates that opportunity to also disconnect ourselves with our human relationships, because we now only find safety in nature. We only find safety in animals, these kinds of things. And this is a reality for many individuals that have an imbalance within their relationship to the elements. You see, it's very important for us to realize that each one of the containers of self-identity has an optimal state of understanding and has an imbalanced state of understanding. And as we begin to loosen ourselves from the hyper focus on any one perception, we begin to realize the power of our own sovereignty. The relationship to these sacred containers of self-identity brings infinite source and purpose. The relationship to prayer, meditation, grounding, the animals, the trees, spiritual beings, all of this is represented in the sacred seven. So there's been a lot of deep concepts that I've given to you, a lot of information, and this information can bring intellectual change. But I really would like to share with you, if you're willing and you would like to, and if I can ask you, if I could share a deeper meaning and deeper purpose for this journey of self-identity, would that be something you would be interested in hearing more about? Because I know I've kept you here for a while now, and I don't want anyone to be on this that doesn't want to hear the kind of the revelation, right, of this intellectual understanding or this information. So I'd love to share that with you if you would be willing for me to go a little bit further with this and to really help you understand the secrets of the sacred self. Nice. Thank you. So if I could help you understand a way to relate to yourself and the secrets that have been given to me in understanding into transformation in my relationship to that which serves my best life, would you like to know more? I hope you would, because I'm going to share that with you. So the journey begins with the book. So everybody on this is going to get, if you registered for this webinar, you are going to get a free book. And you can get the book. I will send you the information here as we go. It will be in the chat room, how you can get your free book. So what I'm offering, and this is, I guess, the COVID, where we're at in the pandemic, I'm actually offering you a one-on-one personal session using sacred sound. This is a part of this journey that we're creating, and I will give you access to setting that up at the end of this presentation. It's my gift to you as a part of this process. Really what I want to do is I want to create an avenue for people to have transformation. We're setting up a group on Facebook to begin this journey. It is a 8-week journey that's going to begin of community transformation. This will have an assignment for each and every one of you. I'm offering this to the individuals who have taken part in this presentation, this orientation to the Sacred Seven. And as we begin to grow the community, we'll begin to get access for individuals to help us be accountable to each one of the sacred containers of self. So this is an experiential transformational process. We're creating community connections. I feel that out of the density of this experience that we've been in, that this is a time to go within. It's a time that we're being forced to go within. But in going within, we have an opportunity to step into the density of our emotions that have created gravity and have created havoc in our relationships. This is a transformational process that I want to facilitate to individuals out there that are wanting to live their optimal state of human design and really access the power that I have been able to be present with, that has brought me from being the son of two junkies into a world-class presenter and keynote speaker. I've been invited to some of the largest organizations in the world. Charles Schwab, Bain Consulting, $4.3 billion business consulting firm, has utilized my expertise in wellness and in speaking to these individuals. And this is a part of that transformational process. This ancient indigenous technology that is fundamental for the foundation of spiritual growth. I want to take people on this journey together, and we're offering it. This is what I wanted to present to you. This is the value. Now, I'm not asking anybody for this, but if I was to put a price tag on this journey, this is what I would look at. So I'm offering everybody the book. Generally, we do a signed copy of the book. That's a $25 value. The one-on-one sessions, when I do individual coaching, $200 a session. That equates to 7 sessions in the group. That's a $1,625 value for participation in this amazing transformational journey. Now, what I'm offering today is the 8-week program to relational transformation as a suggested donation. Now, this is the thing. I am not saying that any one of you has to do the donation of $122 to be a part of this. I know there are many of you out there that are going through financial difficulties right now. There's been massive layoffs. There's been massive cutbacks in work. I mean, many of us have reached a point where it's difficult for us. But I know that this time that we're in can be utilized if we allow it to be utilized. So I'm asking for a suggested donation of $122 for the 8-week program. You will get with that donation a signed copy of the book mailed to your home with a personal message. If you can't do the $122 and you still want to join and you still want to be a part of the private Facebook group, and you want to be a part of the individual sessions, you want to have the one-on-one session with me, you want to be a part of the 8 weeks of transformation, that is open to you as well. You are going to get access to the book for free, and I'm going to give you access to the book right now on the chat. This is where you can access So that's the Sacred 7. If you go there and you sign up for the email list, you will get a copy of the book sent to you. If you want to reach out to me and you're interested in being a part of the actual group, you can reach me at tribal13th@gmail.com. This is the email that you can reach me. And yeah, if you have any questions now, I would love to take questions from the group. You can get to me in the chat room here, and I'm available for about the next five minutes or so. If there isn't any questions and you would like to take an opportunity, let me give you, this is also my PayPal. If you want to do the $122 and get the signed copy of the book, it's the same as the email. So, and we're going to be starting the group as soon as we get a minimum of 10 participants, and I think we're at about 3 right now. So I'm going to be doing these orientations here on Facebook and also on Zoom until we fill the group. So I know it's not going to take long. This is the first time that I've done this. So, or I'm sorry, the second time that I've done this online. There's the PayPal there. So I know it's a lot of information. I know that this technology is not something that many people have ever even encountered because we're not living a ceremonial life. We're not practicing the authenticity, the vulnerability. We grow up in a society where the first thing that's taught to us is, what are we going to be when we grow up? You know, this idea inside of us that we're not enough already, that in being a child, that is not enough, that we need to reach out, we need to accumulate wealth, we need to do all of these things, right? And now when we're left in a place of being paralyzed by the contemporary culture, by what's going on within this pandemic, many of us are losing it because we don't have that foundation, that spiritual foundation that's within the Sacred Seven. This ancient technology is really powerful for anyone that's in a place that wants to grow themselves, that wants to be a part of something deep within their own reality. So I know that people who have read the book, today I went and met with a friend of mine, and she says that she's teaching her grandson how to introduce himself, that they had a fire in their backyard. They utilized it as a fire ceremony. And the grandson came out with a drum and started playing his drum for the fire. And then she said, I want to teach you how to introduce yourself. This is out of the practice of the Sacred Seven that she got in the book. You know, this has been something that people have told me, that when they introduced themselves the first time, they were brought to a place of deep wonder and they felt the earth shake. Now, myself, I have seen animals come out of the wilderness when I've introduced myself to the mountain. I've introduced myself to the ocean. And I can tell you, in all the public speaking that I've done, when I utilize this technology of ceremonial introduction and empower myself to step in to the optimal state and the vulnerable state and the authentic state of who I am, the change is dramatic. When I haven't used it, I feel it. This is the power of ceremonial introduction that I know you need to be equipped with. You need to understand this in your life because, like I said, throughout history, individuals have been granted this technology, and it's been in some cultures a necessity. It's a rite of passage, but for many of us, we're missing it. And it's time that we come back to that place of deep reflection of self-identity. All right, I'm not seeing a lot of questions on here, so I'm going to go ahead and close out this webinar. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm very grateful that you were able to participate, and I look forward to seeing you on the Facebook group. Please connect with me online here, Tribal 13th, thesacred7.com. Thesacred7.com will give you that opportunity to get a free copy of the book. Connect with me on The Sacred 7 on Facebook. We're starting the group. You can be a part of this transformation to becoming a perfect 7. The 7 Nation is out there. Let's transform the world together. Thank you so much.